Welcome back, guys. Welcome to Miko's Corner once again. Back with another historical video. Hope you have a great day, guys. Today we're back with Wolfpack, the German U-boat tactics. It was, I was, I was thinking to myself, what haven't I reacted to in a while? It was 2 days, 3 days, but still. Why not react to Sabaton? It was very well received by you guys. A lot of likes, a lot of a lot of comments. I appreciate it a lot. A lot of support. I'm like, you know what? Why not do it again? Why not do another reaction? This time we're gonna react on the German U-boats. The reason why I chose this video is because two reasons. One, it's short, 15 minutes. I can do it quick. Number two is because everybody, I don't care if you're someone who's never heard of the Second World War that much, or a historian. Everybody knows about the U-boats, and nobody knows that much about. I know a lot of people know about them, but I don't know. You hear about them so much. U-boat this, U-boat that, the Wolfpack, the German submarines, and how they. But we don't know that much. I don't know that much. So curious. Let's go in. If you like it, leave a like. Let's go in.
One of the enduring images of the Second World War is that of the German U-boats,
who would hunt in wolf packs.
To their own shore came the World War, glistening and leading the beauty west.
I need to do a reaction of Sabaton music, dude.
of the German submarines, U-boats, was a major shock to the British Royal Navy back during the Great War. So it was not surprising that in the Peace Treaty of Versailles, Germany would not be allowed to have any submarines, and its navy was greatly reduced in size.
Yep.
In fact, the potential of the submarine as a weapon seemed such a possible threat to Britain's imports, and thus its economical survival, that there were some British politicians trying to ban submarines in general. In Germany, the U-boat crews and commanders were well respected as heroes of the Great War. So it's no wonder that even as early as 1922...
Dude, I cannot imagine what it must be like to be a submariner, especially back in the day. I mean, today, it's horrible. There's so many accidents, and it must be very terrifying, because if your boat sinks, at least you have a chance of survival. If your submarine sinks, it's over. But back then, man, with the technology and with the metal,
they secretly kept tabs on the further developments of the submarine. In 1935, when Adolf Hitler felt strong enough politically to openly proclaim the rearmament of the German Wehrmacht, Admiral Erich Raeder began building a modern, new U-boat force. He envisioned a large submarine fleet. According to him, their true potential had been wasted in the Great War because Germany was unable to produce enough of them to be really effective.
yeah, and we saw, with the comparison between all the navies of the war, and they went all in on the subs.
Made not only the Anglo-German naval agreement, but also Hitler's own visions of mighty battleships and aircraft carriers seriously limited his options. So Raeder tasked the acclaimed submarine captain from the Great War, now Admiral Karl Dönitz, to do the best he could with what he had at hand. And that was little enough. By the outbreak of the Second World War, the Kriegsmarine had only 39 frontline submarines available. Dönitz and Raeder agreed that such a small force couldn't achieve much, especially if Hitler kept insisting on playing by the rules of prize regulations. By late 1940, though, even after the Führer switched to all-out submarine warfare, only 13 new U-boats had been commissioned, not even enough to replace their losses. And the Royal Navy was turning to the convoy system faster than expected. After the sinking of the passenger liner Athenia and the battleship Royal Oak, right in the Navy's backyard at Scapa Flow, the British government insisted on grouping together large numbers of merchant ships that were to be escorted by the Royal Navy in convoys. The convoy system had been the major counter to the German submarines in the Great War. And now Admiral Dönitz sought to overcome that problem by concentrating his submarines in the same way. The idea of the Wolfpack was born.
Above the surface it seems quiet and
If Germany wanted to bring Britain to its knees, they had to win the tonnage war. They simply had to sink more ships and cargo than the British could reproduce. But it was a slow process.
Yeah.
During the Norwegian campaign, the submarines had faulty torpedoes, which repeatedly jeopardized their missions. Even when in perfect position to take a shot, the German torpedoes could simply fail to explode or to find their target. This was not only really frustrating, but also dangerous to the then exposed submarines. German scientists then came up with magnetic triggers instead of impact fuses, which would detonate in the range of the vessels. By 1940, with the comfort of the French ports after the Battle of France, which eliminated the time-consuming transit into the Atlantic and increased the effectiveness of the submarines by shortening repair times, the Wolfpack seemed to be ready. Convoys heading out from Canada towards the British Isles were the first to fall prey to the new tactics. Like a real pack of wolves, the first vessel that located the convoy would inform the others of its coordinates via radio transmission and continue to shadow it. The commander
But wouldn't the radio transmission be intercepted by the convoy? I mean, you know.
of the group would come up with a plan of approach and coordinate the coming attack from his own submarine. Then, when in a favorable position, the Wolfpack would strike. If the convoy was not strongly protected, or if a smaller group was separated by the rest by bad weather or whatever, they engaged the enemy. If not, they waited for the dark of night. U-boats were hard to detect in any case, even with the advanced abilities of the Royal Navy. But under cover of the night, after silently surfacing, they would be silhouetted by their commanders against the dark horizon, or against a strong wind, making detection many times harder. Then they would strike, usually firing 3 or 4 or all torpedo tubes one after the other to minimize the risk of torpedo failure affecting targeting.
Yep.
The convoy's armed escort ship would usually react to the first attacker, which had to dive and take evasive action. But that
You know what's interesting? I'm sorry, I'm pausing, but what's interesting about the military and strategy, the way it works is, you know, the Allies adapted. You know, instead of sending long ships that are easy to take out, they started making convoys, and the Germans adapted. You know, it's all about adaptation. That's why there's so much progress, I believe, in technology during wars, because you're forced to adapt or lose. It's over. You know, until you adapt over and over and over again. That's why, technologically speaking, it explodes.
That led to the disruption of the convoy's formation. As the convoy reacted, the second submarine would attack, hitting the group from a different angle, then evade and give another submarine the chance to shine. This way, they could maybe sink 5, 6, or even 7 ships at one approach and get away without losing a sub. If each convoy lost around 10% of its merchant ships this way, Britain would indeed lose the tonnage war. In fact, some early convoy losses were so high that British High Command kept the numbers from the public to avoid panic.
Yeah.
And because of the first positive results, Raeder and Dönitz were optimistic that by enlarging the submarine fleet, the tonnage victory was theirs for the taking.
Yeah, they went
Britain
all
could
out.
not use its mighty navy to guard against invasion and protect its merchant fleet at the same time, could they? But once more, their pleas fell on deaf ears. This time, it was Germany's favorite uniform fetishist, Hermann Goering, who, as the man who divided the resources, favored his Luftwaffe over the Navy.
Yeah, no
Once
shit.
more, the full potential of the Wolfpacks could not be unleashed. Still, from June 1940 to March 1941, the German submarine fleet inflicted heavy losses on the convoys. But once the threat of a German invasion of Britain really faded, then the British began catching up with them. They outfitted their ships with air-to-surface radar systems, began using naval aircraft more efficiently in general, and organized hunting groups equipped with depth charges. Mid-1941 was a real low point for the German Navy, as many of its submarine aces, those with 5 or more kills, were themselves killed or sunk by the new aggressiveness of the British escorts. The exchange rate went to 5 British ships for 1 German submarine, and that was not sustainable for Germany. The Wolfpacks were still deadly, they just now had to be carefully deployed. Radio communication and coordination were key for that game, and as long as the Allies failed to crack their codes, the Wolfpacks were indeed invisible in their approach.
They cracked it.
Then,
Yeah.
The British cracked their codes.
Enigma,
Unknown to the Kriegsmarine, the capture of U-110 led to the cracking of the German coding machine Enigma at Bletchley Park, which now allowed the British to have a comprehensive picture of the German submarine deployment. 1942 began with a new British
So, it gives on to the fact that, about war, it's all about intelligence. If you know what your enemy is going to do, you can counter-move.
confidence that the Wolfpacks would soon be tamed or skinned. However, now that the U.S. had joined the war, increasing transatlantic traffic was cause for new headaches, and Dönitz had shifted his attention further westward to intercept as much of that traffic as possible. On May 6, 1942, convoy ON-92, outbound from Britain to North America, 42 ships strong, left Liverpool, guarded by the destroyer Gleaves, the cutter Ingham, and 4 Canadian corvettes. It was a rather ill-equipped and inexperienced convoy. Only HMS Barry carried a high-frequency direction finder, and only one other ship was equipped with a 10-centimeter radar system. To save as much time as possible, they took the Great Circle route, the shortest and most direct line across the North Atlantic, but also the most predictable.
Took a short way in, the long route back, convoy 92. Urigleaves and Ingham leading, tankers to the west. And upon the North Atlantic lie the silence of the seas. And on the quietest night, in the darkest hour, the Kriegsmarine appear.
It did not take long for the Germans to intercept their radio traffic. On May 11th, U-569 spotted the convoy and alerted the rest of its pack. Wolfpack Hecht Pike was soon in pursuit. The Barry was quick to realize that they were being shadowed, and not only by U-569, but also at least 2 other submarines. Now, a convoy usually had at least 2 basic options: to send out a hunting party in the hopes of driving the submarines away, or to quickly take evasive action and outrun them. Neither was really a possibility here, though, as the escorts were too few and the convoy too slow. And the somewhat outdated system of the Barry could only give a vague fix on enemy positions, and that position was closing in on them as night fell. The Gleaves decided on a daring move, chasing U-569 alone. This, however, was just what the Wolfpack had hoped for. Just after the Gleaves left, shortly before midnight, U-124 approached the convoy from the south, successfully torpedoing 2 of the outside ships, the Empire Dell and Lanover cargo vessels.
I mean, to be honest, imagine how anxious, you'd be if you're a Marine on any of the Allied ships going back and forth. The headaches, the anxiety, the whole night you'd be like shaking, hoping that, and the tonnage. Yeah, I've seen the numbers, and it's insane. Within like just a few months, the number of ships sunk by the German U-boats, it was insane.
The other ships fired illumination flares, hoping to catch the attacker. But that only diverted attention from U-94, who promptly sank the cargo ship Coco. Shortly after that, U-124 made a second run through the convoy undetected, sinking both the steamer Mount Perez and the Cristales cargo ship. With 5 ships reported sinking or burning, the Gleaves quickly came rushing back. The next morning, the Gleaves and the corvettes, who had spent their time rescuing sailors from sinking ships, had an easier time preventing the Wolfpack from emerging in broad daylight. But then their luck ran out. Their evasive maneuvers led them into a storm, and also into the path of U-94, who was waiting for them. During the storm that night, U-94 torpedoed at least 1, but possibly 2 merchant ships, the British Batna and the Swedish Tolkien. Having lost 7 ships now, the convoy was a shambles. But the Wolfpack was running out of fuel and torpedoes, so Dönitz called his pack back home, pleased with the results. The Allies realized that despite their earlier successes and improvements, the Wolfpacks were very much still alive and very much still dangerous. And German Naval Command gained new hope that the Battle of the Atlantic was a long way from being over.
I mean, It's pretty insane, you know.
When I wrote the music for this song, we hadn't really decided on, Primo Victoria being about military history.
Okay.
So originally, this one had a totally different lyric. I don't think I've ever talked about this actually, but the idea was about man or mankind being the ultimate predator. So if I remember correctly, the lyrics would start from the Rhine fall to the Great Wall. Man, Mother Nature's ultimate predator. I can't remember exactly. Something along those lines, anyway. And I think I'd gotten pretty far. I was halfway through the lyrics, but as we then had the music to Prima Victoria, me and Per thought we needed something big. So we decided on D-Day for Prima Victoria. All of a sudden, it clicked. It made sense for us, It was interesting to sing about military history. It had a huge and epic sound to it. So we thought, we can't sing about beer and riding motorcycles or sex, drugs, and rock and roll and that stuff. And I mean, this was 2004 when we recorded that album, and we thought, hell yeah, let's do it.
Well, there are an awful lot of songs about beer and sex and drugs and rock and roll, and there's not a whole lot of songs about U-boat Wolfpacks, for example. So nobody can accuse you of like, oh, another song. Oh, you like beer? Well, so does everybody else who writes a song about beer. There's not a whole lot of songs about people that hate beer.
Oh, no,
you don't see that from metal bands. I hate beer. Now, it's interesting, the original lyrics were about man as the ultimate predator. And of course, war is an expression of that as the ultimate predator. But is man really the ultimate predator? Because there is one other apex predator that is likely as deadly as man.
Please don't say beer.
No. Okay, two. No, the mosquito.
Oh, yeah.
Mosquito kills an awful lot of human beings. I mean, between just malaria alone. I mean, so do you have any songs about mosquitoes?
That came all of left field.
I mean, they actually have to go to war. Ooh, interesting. I wonder.
Well, from the animal kingdom, we could do the Great Emu War in Australia.
You could, but there's also plenty of animals that somehow played parts in human wars and things like that, or even diseases.
Bear Wojtek in Monte Cassino.
There you go. And I was thinking, of course, think of all the soldiers and civilians.
Wait, we're gonna skip over. What the hell?
Monte Cassino.
What? Okay, what the hell is this? This bear was in the army? I need more context on
There
this.
you go. And I was thinking, of course, think of all the soldiers and civilian stuff that died from the Spanish flu. Although that's not an animal, it's an influenza, and of course that affects war.
The number of people that died from the Spanish flu was like between 50 and 80 million, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be actually, but it was a huge number. You just come out of the Great War where you lost like 20 million, give or take. And then another 40, 50 from this. It was insane. That's mind blowing. Jesus Christ was the 20th century bloody when you think about it. And we don't realize, but we were really lucky. With the corona, I know millions died internationally, and it's sad, but it could be way worse. Like 3-4 million people died. I might be mistaken. It's been a while since I checked the numbers, but give or take that amount internationally throughout the world. But what you have to remember is that that's over 7 billion people. That's in the 1918. So the numbers proportionally are way smaller. Because back then there was like 2 billion, 1 billion, 1.5 billion people, maybe. And so they lost like an insane amount of people. 50 million. Let's say 50. Let's say 50 million. That's 5% of the population, give or take. It's pretty, equal to our, losses. I think I'm wrong. I think the 3% COVID infection, it's not 3% death. I don't know. But my point is the following. If we lose, like, proportionally the same amount of people today and now, the COVID should have killed how many? 200 million? 300 million? More?
The spread of sleeping sickness and malaria and other insect-borne diseases, or smallpox, which was the what?
I don't know what we should do. We should do a special about gin tonic.
And why tonic? Yeah. Why we have quinine. So, okay.
For a future episode, it will be.
It's going to be a special episode about gin and tonics. We're not going to spoil it now.
No.
We're going to be drinking gin and tonics when we
Yes.
do it, though. Okay.
Next time.
Well, thank you for that enlightening story about how you really began writing all the military history things, and of course, Wolfpack being one of the first. And guess what?
It's over.
It is over, but Sabaton History will be back in exactly 7 days.
See you then.
See you next time.
Anyways, guys, I hope you like my reaction. I love those videos. If you want to see more, leave a like. And yeah, very interesting. You know, I didn't know that much about overall on the U-boats, submarines. I knew a good amount, like an alright amount. But I didn't know that they created the Wolfpacks as a sort of a counterbalance to the convoys, which is, in retrospective, it makes sense. It makes real good sense actually. But the anxiety, like, I'm a very anxious person, and I'm like in my room right now. So why do I have to be anxious about? But imagine being on a boat, on any boat, and you know that the wolf packs are just going back and forth, back and forth. That must be insane. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked my reaction. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.